Well, hello, and welcome to my second episode. I am the Tallyman, High Priest of Nurgle. Praise Nurgle. I don't know what to call you people. Nurglings? Nurglites? I don't like Nurglings. Let's say Nurglites. I'll call you Nurglites. Anyways, we got a packed show today. We got a lot of stuff we got to cover, so we're going to be moving quick, and we're going to be getting started right now.
Worry not, my child, for Nurgle loves you.
This world is alive. Okay, little fella. How about some hot chocolate?
Technology. I tell you. Let's start again. Sorry. So, essentially, what I was saying earlier is I'm a person that likes systems. I like to work stuff out. And so what I'm doing is I'm implementing smaller and smaller bits of what is supposed to be and what's intending to be kind of a variety show. Eventually, I'd like to start doing interviews and stuff like that. Eventually, I'd like to start doing different things. I also have other projects coming down the pike. Hopefully within the next week or so, I'm going to have a pilot, demonstration pilot for a competition show. I'd like to start giving regular people a chance to compete painting. I like watching other people paint, something that I'm really into. And I learn a lot from it and stuff like that. So what I want to do is it's going to be a head-to-head painting competition done on the computer. Because usually if you want to watch someone paint or you want to do stuff, you can go to like a channel and watch someone paint. But it doesn't have the competitive component. So I'll be releasing the rules for that. And I'm going to do a pilot so people can kind of see what that is. But as we're going along, if people decide that they're interested in being part of that competition, and hopefully earning some prizes and stuff like that. I don't have any sponsors yet. But what I'm interested too is, as far as that, is kind of promoting some of the warmonger businesses. You know, there's some awesome dice and dice bags and stuff like that versus just Games Workshop models that people can go buy. So we'll kind of play along with that and see how that's going. And like I said, I'll put the rules out and a pilot so people can kind of see how that works and how logistically that's going to function. I also now have the domain nurglelovesyou.com. So from there, I'm going to be starting to do blogs and stuff like that. And hopefully I'll have my first blog post. I'll be able to do that once a week. If anybody's interested in being a ghost, or not a ghostwriter, what is that? A commentator, the person that contributor, then I would love to have you. As long as it's Warhammer related and it's not like, drenched with real world bullshit, right? It's got to be Warhammer because that's why we're here. Or, hobby model kind of stuff. I don't even mind really drama as long as it's hobby related, not real world bullshit. So we'll be doing that. So there's a blog. Hopefully we'll have a game show going here. It's something I've been thinking a lot about for a long time. I've been wanting to put this together. And like I said, it's more a matter of logistics. Like, I just don't know what I'm doing, you know, and I just decide, I want to do this. So I'm going to make some shit up as I do it. So we're going to be switching out and doing that. Nothing too crazy, nothing too out of control. So first thing we're going to do is this week in the community. I'm mostly part of the Twitter community. I don't do Facebook very much anymore. Instagram, not really much into that kind of stuff. So it's mostly Twitter. And if you follow the Warmongers hashtag, you'll end up finding us. First one today is I got to give some props out to the badass Nick Ivers. Let me pull him up real quick. There we go. Nick, which is at Ivers_N, is he's a bad mofo. He is a warrior of the faith. He is a crusader of our people. He went head to head with some dude on Twitter who was basically calling us Nazis. Just this past week, and he, slapped the dude around and actually got some followers for it, which is great. I mean, his followership is going up really, really fast. He's a lot of fun. He's kind of shy, so you kind of got to take him with a grain of salt. Just because, he's a good dude, but he's, self-deprecating, which is all right. But he also is a pretty decent painter. So I like catching up on his projects, and I was going to show you. He's pretty good about, like this one. That's a kit bash. That's not. You can't play that kit bash. But see what I mean? He's pretty good about putting in stages and stuff like that. But anyways, this guy basically said that people who are Warhammer fans are Nazis. Standalone. Everybody's a Nazi if you don't like them. And what's funny is also did this to the Gundam fans. So there's Gundams of people who follow the Empire and Gundam. I forget what they're called, Zion or Zoran or something like that. Not really a Gundam fan myself, but called them Nazis too, of course. And Nick, started going to town with this guy and fighting with each other. And then, excuse me, lo and behold, dude's a perv. So, and I wish I could remember his name because he deleted his account. I should have gotten some. I could probably, if you follow Nick's stream, you can go back far enough and find the dude. But essentially, dude's a pervert, and he was making people feel creepy, and he was, he was trying to, get people to be lewd. Or whatever. So anyways, he ended up deleting his account. He's no longer part of Twitter. So, Nick, you're a good man. All right. Next up on our little highlights of the world, Space Marine Heroes. Now, this is something actually I've bought several of. Right. And I like them. Which, don't mind the boxes. I just put them up there because, as I'm not showing off the shit that I got. It's more a matter of this really boring fucking wall, right? And I don't got anything to put back there yet. So once I get some stuff and some memorabilia and stuff like that, I'll start putting that up versus just throwing some boxes up there every time I want to stream. But anyways, so I like the concept of the heroes. I actually was really into the whole heroes thing. I thought it was I thought it was a fun little concept. I mean, what's the harm in a blind box every now and then, But what happens is I got a couple of complaints just for any of you that haven't gotten into the heroes thing yet. First thing is, as you can see, it's all quick build, right? So one of the big reasons why I was fine with buying them is I thought to myself, well, shit, you know, if I don't get the one I want, that's just bits for the bits box, right? And most people haven't really followed me too much here yet, but essentially, I'm a big fan of, what's the word? Oh, I'm a big fan of kit bashing, and so I thought, oh, you know, we'll just do some kit bashing, you know, with those bits. They just go in the bit box, right? Well, lo and behold, it's all easy build, so it's not going to be one of those things that's easy to just build, you know. So I wasn't too keen on that. I wasn't too excited about that. The other thing is essentially, I did a little bit of math. So somebody had told me that the captain, you know, the cool hidden captain or whatever, he's 1 in 38. It's a 1 in 38 chance of winning the captain, right? So if that's what you're after, that's fine, but realize that's a 2.5% chance, right? And it's not a closed system. So you know, if people are like, oh well, shit, if I just buy 38 of these, I'm bound to get a captain. Well, maybe you might get a captain. You might get no captains. You might get 10 captains because it's not a closed system. And so you can't. That's how a lot of people who bet get caught up, right? What they do is they think to themselves, oh, I just got to cast the die 38 times and I'll win. That doesn't necessarily hold true. You basically have a 2.5% chance. So a 97.43% chance of not getting the hero or the captain that you may want. I do like the models. The other issue that I have with the models is they're not Primaris. Or at least there's no Primaris in it. The problem with that being is most everybody's playing Primaris these days. There's still old armies, right? Like I got an old Dark Angels army, and that's fine. But they were really pushing Primaris, right? And so if you're not doing a Primaris, then you're not going to be interested in it as well. Which my boys' army is mostly Primaris. There's not a lot of old Marines in it, and so I'm not really buying a lot of old Marines. So that was my other real complaint, is that there was that they weren't Primaris, that they were old school Marines, which you kind of get the feeling that they're trying to get rid of old school Marines. But you know, it is what it is. I'd love to see some Death Guard. I'd love to see Death Guard get this much love. You know, when you have this type of you know, these models are pretty sweet, you know. So I'd love to see Death Guard get, or even, you know, Chaos in general. I wouldn't mind getting some of these, you know, getting some of these models, you know, it'd be something that I could get myself into. So we'll see. So that's basically that. I just wanted to throw that out there for folks, because anytime you get into loot boxes, I hopefully people are getting into it, you know, with an open idea of what they're after. You know, they know what they're getting themselves into, and they don't feel like they're getting hustled. You know what I mean? But you know, like I said, that sergeant's pretty badass. You know, so there's some pretty good models there, but they're easy build. So kit bashing is kind of a pain in the butt. It's just what it is. Next order of business. As you guys know, Blizzard's been really fucking itself up lately. They recently just announced mobile for all of their IPs. So all IPs are going to be switching over to mobile. They may not get rid of like core games like WoW, just because WoW's been around forever and it's got a stable platform and stuff. But like Diablo, the new Diablo's on mobile. You know, not going to do it. So, with that being said, I'm in a quest to replace Diablo, and I'm going to be playing Grim Dawn. And so I already have my first episode of Grim Dawn up, filmed. I just got to edit it and make it look pretty before I put it up. But yeah, we're gonna be looking at different games to replace Diablo because I love Diablo. I've been playing Diablo since 1 back in the 90s. Actually, my first Blizzard game was Lost Vikings. For those of you that know what Lost Vikings is, it was a fun little game. Warhammer 1, all the Warhammers, WoW, all that stuff. I stopped playing WoW about 2004, 5. Started playing EVE Online. Played EVE for a long time. We may get back into EVE. We'll see. I fucking love EVE. I don't have the time for it. So when you don't have enough time to be good at something, especially MMORPGs, I get out of it. But my brother and I have been playing Diablo. We're going to start playing Grim Dawn. It's pretty fun so far, actually. I enjoy it quite a bit. So stay tuned. I'm going to start doing some play with me with Grim Dawn and, doing some commentary and review because I really do like it. And quite a few people have said that it's the true successor to Diablo 2 versus Diablo 3, which I love. I love Diablo 2. So, let's see what else we got going. Next order of business. Oh, okay. So back to Warhammer Heroes. There's actually a thing called Warhammer Heroes. So Warhammer Heroes it's a community, kind of like people who help get people into the game, people who do stuff. And the nominations open on November 29th. Now, they had like 13,000 nominations last year. Let's see. I forget how many nominations they had. 12,000. 12,000 nominations last year. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be pushing pretty hard to get Lonely Havocs nominated to this. So I'm gonna nominate him for this, and I'm gonna get Lonely, who's this fool right here. Hello, right? I want to get him nominated for this. He's he likes cats, but whatever. This guy, because what he does is he puts a lot of time and effort into helping people get into the community, getting into stuff, and he plays a lot of games with other people. He attends stuff. He's got a podcast he just started. I really like the podcast. It's good interviews. I think he's got Stormgrad Games and The Brush Wizard are the two that I've listened to so far. It's pretty good. Pretty good show. He's definitely improving and really getting there. And so I'd really like to promote him, but really the thing is I'd like to promote his work, right? Because he's really helping people get into the hobby and feel comfy, and he's not a dick. So, I like people who are not dicks. So, anyways, he's who I'd really like to see get nominated for that. So, no one watches this. I have no followers really yet. I have 6 subscribers, but it's mostly like, my friends and my wife, and then some strangers. So, anyways, I'm gonna still be promoting this within Twitter and trying to get people to nominate him for a Heroes Award because he's a good dude. So that's that order of business. The next thing is I am fucking excited about this. They just put up made to order Pestigores. Pestigores being the beastmen of Nurgle. So these guys right here. Now I don't like Age of Sigmar Pestigores. I like my Pestigores better, which basically I take Poxwalkers and I cut their head off and I put a little freaking I put a beastman skull on it and I do my thing. But the fact of the matter is there are Pestigores and they're made to order, so I'll probably be getting me some Pestigores just to say I have them, right? For you Corn players, and actually there's some interesting mods here, and I'm I'll probably just end up using them as poxwalkers, because I can. But the reason I don't like them, specifically the reason I don't like them, is because they have a single horn. I think it looks weird. Sometimes they're cyclopean. Sometimes they only have the one eye, if you look at the old Pestigores. And it looks a lot like a, what are the Poxbringers or whatever, the Demons of Nurgle. I don't play Demons of Nurgle. I should probably play Demons of Nurgle. I only play Deathwatch at the moment, which, side note, Deathwatch was actually not my primary army. Back in 3, when I used to play, I was actually at Iron Warriors, but I can't fucking find them. We moved. I have this huge Iron Warriors army, and I have no fucking idea where they're at. So then when my boy wanted to get into it, I got into Death Guard, and because Nurgle blesses me regularly, and I'm a chronic follower of Nurgle. I kind of adopted this persona, but nonetheless, I actually like Iron Warriors. Yep, I have a basilisk, right somewhere, and a Vindicator. Back when Iron Warriors were fucking cool because they had fucking artillery. Which I think they got rid of now. I don't know. I haven't dicked around with it because I haven't found my army yet. Once I find them, then I will talk some shit. But scrolling down, the other thing is they have corn gores, blood gores. What are corn? Corn gores. Yeah, corn gores. So they have corn gores. So. From what I understand, they're pretty awesome as well. I do like that banner. The banner's pretty badass, but I don't play corn because whatever. And then there's some Chaos Warhounds. I do like those. Those are badass. Chaos Warhounds. I'm sure they're pretty awesome. But these are made to order. So if that's something you're into, if you're into the Beastmen, and actually I think Beastmen are probably going to be coming back into 40K. They had some in Blackstone Fortress, and like I said, I've been cutting all the heads off my poxwalkers because whatever, I enjoy it, and so I think that's a possibility there. Maybe some. I mean, look at that. That's a badass model right there. That's pretty sweet. I'm impressed. Let's see. Moving right along. So, made to order Pestigores. Pretty badass. And that was actually brought to me by the Blue Heretic, who is another. Oh, Lonely's a Nurgle player, by the way. So, got to take care of the bro. And then Blue Heretic, I think, is also a Nurgle player. But he's another one to pay attention to. I enjoy him quite a bit. He's on there as the Blue Heretic. He's the one who turned me on to the Pestigores. So he deserves a shout out because that's, fucking awesome. The Blue Heretic. Next order of business, Mechanicus. Now I was actually looking at Mechanicus as my replacement for Diablo. I thought to myself, well, that would be a pretty sweet deal. I mean, it's a. Let me pull this up. Sorry, gotta hit the transition button. Yeah, so I was looking at Mechanicus. That was kind of going to be my replacement for Diablo, because it looks fucking sweet. The only thing that's got me thinking otherwise now is there's a cat named Bait, which we'll talk more about Bait at some point, because Bait's an artist and he deserves a proper shout out at his stuff. I actually have contracted some work from him. But he beat it in 14 hours. So I want to spend my finite funds on things. I got kids and they like to eat and shit. And so I'm a little worried about getting Mechanicus now, because if it's only a 14-hour game, and even if Bait's a much better player than me and it takes me 20 hours, I'll be through that shit in no time and pissed off because I don't know what else to do. So replayability is something I'm really concerned about. Bait, like I said, he's an artist. He's a 40K artist. He's someone to pay attention to. We'll do an actual look at Baits one of these days. But for now, we'll leave him be and thank him for his input regarding Mechanicus. Next, this is something that's kind of interesting, and it kind of ties into our next segment, which is our Horus Heresy book club that I'm starting this week. And basically, it's a thing called Humble Bundle. And essentially, you pay into certain tiers within the Humble Bundle, and they do something with it. A charity or something. And I'm not 100% sure how it works. I've read some of it. What do they do with it? It's like to support good causes, right? And I haven't looked at what the causes are. So if you're into what the cause is, you should probably check that shit out and make sure it's what you're willing to do. But basically, there's 3 tiers: $1, $8, or $15. And then when you do the first tier, you get Horus Rising, which is the book we're going to be going through, the first in the Horus Heresy, and then 5 audio dramas. So there's some Fabius Bile, Slayer of the Storm God, so good ones I don't know what they are. I haven't read any of these, but they're audio dramas, so they're voice acted audio files, which I love. I listen to them in the car, so I can stay on top of my reading without actually having to read. So I got so for $1, so tier 1, right? So tier $1, you get Horus Rising and stuff, which on Audacity, or not Audacity, that's the recording system, on Audible, Horus Rising is a $20 book. So just something to think about. I didn't know about this until I had already bought Horus Rising. So I'll probably still do this just to see what it works. And then there's some extracts, which that doesn't mean anything. And then, so tier 2, and see, I don't know if this is monthly. That's the other thing that I was worried about. Like, is this $1 a month? I don't know. $15 a month? I don't know. But for tier 2, for a minimum of $8, and you'll get another audiobook, Hallowed Nights, and I'm assigning 6 more audio dramas. So those are interesting. The Callus of Battle, Calculus of Battle. I have no idea what that is. Some fucking badass artwork, though, isn't it? Interesting. Yeah, so there's some good ones, and then tier 3, of course, then it goes $15, and you get Dark Imperium, and Strike and Fade. Oh, by Strike and Fade is joined by Strike and Fade by Guy Haley. Okay, I don't know what that means. But yeah, so I just thought I'd turn people onto this. If you're looking to get some audio dramas, this looks like a pretty good, decent deal. It could be a good fucking deal. Who knows? I don't know. But it was coming up on the Warhammer community, so I thought that'd be worth checking out. All right, so next segment. Should we do like a intermission or something like that? Nah, we're good. So we're gonna be going over Horus Heresy, and we're gonna be doing book club. Now, since I'm the only bro on here, who's in this book club, it's a one-man book club. We're just gonna talk, and I'm just gonna talk about the things I'm into, and yeah. I actually have also been wondering if this one person that's watching me isn't like a YouTube narrator. What are those people called? I don't remember. Content control. Making sure that I'm not doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. It's the only thing I can think of. Because most, I know I'm streaming late. Most everybody's asleep. It's just that's when my kids go to sleep so that I can actually have some quiet time. A little bit of us time, just you and me. Anyways, so Horus Rising, first book in the Horus Heresy, and we're going to be talking about the first 2 chapters. Now we'll be starting with 2 chapters. That'll get us 10 weeks of Horus Rising, which is kind of a long time. And so if it starts turning into dragging out, then we'll maybe do 3 or 4 chapters a week. But I thought we'd start with 2. And there's quite a bit I'd like to talk about. There's quite a bit that I'm kind of interested in. First thing is I thought it was a really nice literary tool of Dan Abnett to talk about this being the I was there when Horus killed the Emperor. I thought that was and so basically it's told from the story of a one of the Loken was one of the Horus sons of Horus, Luna Wolves. I think they're still called Luna Wolves in the beginning there, and then they'll turn into the sons of Horus. But Loken, basically, it's from being told from his perspective because Loken was there when Horus smoked the Emperor, which is kind of foreshadowing, right? Of course, everybody knows that's what's going to be happening down the road. And so I thought that was really a kind of an interesting deal. I was bummed about Sir Janis. They build up this character, Sir Janis, who's supposed to be like the perfect Luna Wolf, like the perfect son of Horus, and his death is, and they murdered him. Yep. So, these books are generally pretty graphic, right? And they're really good in detail, and it's, and they murdered him. Okay. So, that kind of sucked. You probably did that on purpose, but still, I kind of missed out on Sir Janis. But basically, so what happens is by error, Horus, Lupercal's the big Horus, his fleet drops into this system of 9 worlds, which is interesting. Kind of like our system, because it was a 9-world system surrounded by a yellow sun. Just like ours. And so they accidentally drop in, and the dude's like, hey, I'm the emperor of all mankind. Welcome home. Now swear fealty to me. I've been holding humanity together since before Long Night, since before the fall of man. So my first question that came about because of that is how fucking old is this guy? Right? Long Night is called Long Night because it's fucking long. And this guy held humanity together. Only 9 worlds, by the way. So 2 things. 1, how fucking old is this guy? 2, he's fucking lazy. You only got 9 worlds. Within a couple hundred years, the Emperor is spreading across humanity, wiping everything out. So I think that's interesting. Maybe this Emperor was a perpetual. Maybe this Emperor just had like rejuve treatments. It could have been technology that kept him afloat because, with each of these disparate human societies that have been existing without Long Night, or throughout the fall of man, they were each developing their own technology. They were each doing their own thing, and so I don't know what the deal was and why he was alive, but so that was one of the big questions that I had is how old is this bro, and what's his relation to the other emperor, if any? Just because he's been there for so long, maybe chaos kept him alive or something like that. I don't know. But I don't know. So essentially, then they keep trading. The Horus doing the good thing, trying to keep things going. And he sends another emissary, which gets blown out of the sky. So, Abaddon, which is funny because Abaddon's an asshole. But in the books, he's actually kind of a good dude in the beginning. He's trying to stop this war that's about to happen between these two groups, you know, and even then, he comes out of concealment, and his ship comes out of concealment because they're sitting over the planet, and they light him up too. I did think it was cool imagery. The false emperor's, you know, the emperor, his ships come out of the oceans, you know, which is a great place to store ships, and from out of grav wells and from behind the sun and stuff. So that's all kind of cool. It definitely shows some foresight for Dan Abnett about, you know, this kind of warfare. Space Marines proceed to, you know, kick the crap out of these other humans because they're not modified like the Space Marines are, right? And then so Loken gets in, and he's, you know, does his thing, and he ends up confronting a guy. Well, first he confronts what's called the Invisibles. So the Emperor has these elite guard that use light and bend light, and then eventually can turn light into a weapon that's invisible. It's kind of like a force kind of thing. And they kill a bunch of Space Marines, and Loken ends up going nuts and killing all of them. And so he finally gets to the chamber room of the Emperor, which, come on, bro. Like, why wouldn't the Emperor not have invisible tech? Like, that was kind of one of those things. But you'll understand if you read it. You'll understand why I was thinking that. But there's a really good conversation between an old guy and Loken about humanity and about the two empires and how they see the world and what they do. And there was a few things that I thought was pretty interesting, which was the Emperor, not the one that's, you know, perpetually dying on the Golden Throne, but the other one, this old guy, is talking about how the Space Marines are abominations, right? How they're the mutant, they're Xeno, they're, you know, he's more puritanical regarding humanity than the Empire itself, which they're pretty puritanical, right? But actually, if you think about it, they're not that puritanical, right? There's Ratlings, there's other mutants, Orgrams, Beastmen, who exist in the Imperium, and they're considered pure enough human stock that they can continue to exist. So the Emperor on the Golden Throne is actually a relatively, you know, benign individual regarding the Xeno, because he allows all these mutants to exist, you know, which the ecclesiarchy now is kind of wiping those groups out, and you're seeing less and less. Like, we haven't seen a Ratling, you know, model for a really long time, and they just put him into Blackstone Fortress or whatever. So that was nice to see. But Beastmen, Ratlings, Ogrim is still around, but it's because IG kind of need some melee. They need some big bros to do stuff for them. But yeah, so this new Emperor is more puritanical than the old one, which is definitely something I thought was interesting. But he also posited a pretty interesting question of Loken, which is, why couldn't you just leave us alone? It's a good question. You know, why couldn't the Emperor of Mankind just leave all these disparate human civilizations to themselves? And if you think about it, he really couldn't. I had to think about it for a couple days, because at first I'm like, yeah, fuck that. You could have just left these people alone. They would have been fine. But they wouldn't have been able to muster the military force to survive, right? All these little disparate worlds wouldn't survive. You know, you have Tyranid, you have Orcs, there's the huge industrial complex to support a war effort against these entities. And if you let all these little, you know, groups survive without you, and without contributing to the whole, well, you don't have the whole then. The whole no longer exists. It's definitely worth contemplating, though. You know, why? And actually, Loken later can't answer the question because he doesn't like the implication of it. But when you think about it, it has to happen. There has to be a unified humanity. You can't have these little empires all across the universe because, you have Hive Fleet Kraken coming down on your ass. And you got to be able to muster billions of IG and thousands of Space Marines and all the bullets and trillions and gazillions of personnel and material required to fight Hive Fleet Kraken. Otherwise, the Tyranids and the Orcs and everybody would just run roughshod over humanity. So I'm actually kind of fine with wiping out these little things. Now, on the flip side, the Emperor should have been smarter. Some strange bros show up at your doorstep. You don't just start fucking killing them. You learn about them, and even if this, you could have probably negotiated some kind of exchange program where you could have sent one of your dudes and to look at things, and be like, hey, can you send my guy to your emperor so I can talk to him and we can kind of work out a treaty between our peoples? And then he probably would have become like a planetary governor, a system governor, right? And he would have been just fine. As old as he is, if he's the same person, because that's the other thing. If he may have been multiple people claiming, like as each one dies, that they claim to be themselves. Because one, he ends up being invisible. Nobody sees him. And there's no description of him. So we don't know. Is he an old fucking guy? Is he a young guy? We just, whatever. Because Horus, smokes him point blank range, which is pretty awesome. Spoiler alerts if anybody's reading Horus Rising. I should have put that at the beginning, so I'm sorry. I'll do that in the future. I'll put a little thing up. Spoiler alert if you haven't read the first 2 chapters of Horus Rising. Then they get into a rememberancer. And I tried to find a picture of her. I couldn't remember her name for when I was prepping for today. But one of the things about it is it talks about like her skull has been elongated, and it kind of reminded me of like a crystal skull, right? One of those kind of things where she's got things coming out of her head so that she can remember all this stuff that is happening and tell stories and stuff like that, or maybe they turn it into a picture or something. I don't know, but that's what I kind of envisioned, is this like elongated head, very alien, yeah. So honestly, the only other question that I had that was kind of one of those things, and I don't remember if this ever comes up again, but you got all this technology coming out of these peoples that's different than Imperial tech, right? The Imperials can't even cope with it. They can't deal with this like Loken, when he's looking for all these invisibles, he's able to see a brief contrast in the air, and that's how he just kills the contrast with his chainsword or something, or shoots it. So that's some pretty badass tech. And you can't convince me that the tech just decayed and died because they killed everybody who did it or knew how to make it. There's manufacturing that's going on that makes that stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and I can't remember what happens to the tech that keeps getting pulled in by these disparate human worlds, because it's kind of like the Dark Ages today. So the Dark Ages, if they hadn't happened to us, we would be about 500 years ahead of where we're at today, which is pretty impressive if you think about it, where we could be in 500 years. I mean, shit, I'm excited where we're going to be in 20 years. So that's just something to think about, what some of these worlds could have accomplished. And I wouldn't even be surprised if there wasn't, human worlds that were able to evade the Imperial, sight, and partially because these systems, these worlds, they're being accessed from the Imperium or the Chaos Empyrean. I forgot the word. I'm sorry. Imperium. I'm sorry. Anyways, so they basically, it's kind of like going under a pond, right? They jump in and then they pop back out. Well, they could miss, especially if it's an established route. You're not going to deviate from that route because that'll get you fucked in chaos, right? You'll end up in a space hulk. So there may be worlds out there that are, better off than others, and that kind of stuff. So that was one of the things. But anyways, so that's my thoughts on that. Until I have people to talk to, you're getting my thoughts. When I finally get other people who are interested in doing this book club thing, maybe they'll come and do it with me, and we can talk, and they'll have cool insights, and we'll all feel like we learned something. It'll be fantastic. All right, moving on to next section. Something that's been interesting to me, or something of interest to me, with the Blackstone Fortress release, is the Negavolt, which are these cats. They're chaos worshipping renegades of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Dark Mechanicus. Right, which there's no codexes or anything like that for them. But it's definitely something that has popped up, especially in like the Horus Heresy. We're going to see lots of that. They're also brought up in a book called Dark Adeptus, which is we'll talk about Dark Adeptus in just a minute. That was a pretty badass book. It's book 2 of the Grey Knights series. Kind of older books. I don't remember when they came out back in the day, when I had money and time. But the Grey Knights books are pretty good. It's a pretty decent series. But in Dark Adeptus, there's some Dark Mechanicus kind of stuff going on. And so since we're talking about the Negavolt cultists, it kind of got me thinking about Mechanicus. And I've said this before. I really feel like Games Workshop needs to just release codexes, not models, but just codexes for some of these other groups that they have in the literature. Like Dark Mechanicus, right? There's people that would play them. Just because it's cool and interesting, and if I were them, which I'm not, but let's pretend I am, I would, I'd release the Codex. Just the Codex, no models, and then just let people kit bash the models they need based on the Codex. And there's it's a relatively easy Codex to put together, because you're essentially going to take the Dark Mechanicus Codex and the Chaos Codex and the Demon Codex and some Forge World Codexes, and like whatever the Forge World Codex is. I don't buy Forge World. Anyway, so you just mash that shit together and you get a Codex. And actually, that's what happened. There's a Masters of the Forge, which is a blog, and I'll show it to you here in just a second. I enjoy their blog. They're there. So they do a lot of like blue stuff, green stuff, sculpting stuff, which at some point I would love to get to the point where I'm this good, and I'm at least capable to do some of this. And there's videos and tutorials and all sorts of fun stuff, and I suck. Like I completely suck at sculpting, and doing any kind of kit bashing with the mold, and doing stuff, you know, like making a custom shoulder pad for my dude or some stuff like that. But as you can see, it's not like they're not like Chinese replicators. They're not like replicating the models per se. What they're doing is they're changing and adding stuff and making the model more unique and stuff. I get down with more of that kind of, you know, hobby than I do the game. I'll play the game with my boy and stuff, and I'll play it at the shop or whatever, which I haven't played outside. I haven't played at the shop in a long time. Right now I'm playing with my boy mostly, just because of time. I go into the shop. I go into my GW shop all the time and harass that guy, but I'm just kind of enjoying building my army right now. I'm really slow. I'm really, really slow. Each of my guys has to have a backstory and a name and all this shit. I get down like that. But see, they're doing good work. Anyways, so this Master of the Forge, if you search, they have a PDF out there. I don't know if this is a different group. One would think mastersoftheforge.com, mastersoftheforge.com. Yeah, they're the same people. They have a Dark Mechanicus Codex. It's not an official codex, of course. And they kind of talk about, you know, play testing it and checking it out and that stuff. It gives your Facebook and their website and whatnot. And that's cool. And that's a Nurgle sorcerer right there. That's a Forge World Nurgle sorcerer. Anyways, maybe they tried to turn him into some kind of tech marine. Not really. And essentially, they did exactly what I'm talking about. They took existing stuff and put it into the Dark Mechanicus book and existing rules. So they didn't even really come up with new heretic rules, which are their heretic, not heretic, to the Mechanicus. They don't believe in the Omni Messiah or the Machine God and the Emperor. They believe in the Chaos Gods, and then they don't have machine spirits. They just slave a demon to it, which I think is cool. So that's an interesting read. If you Google Dark Mechanicus Codex, it's right there. But they talk a lot about, you know, Warlord Titans, stuff like that, which is true. Like, so the Dark Mechanicus is going to include, like, the Renegade Knight houses, the Renegade different cults and stuff like that. And they kind of talk about this Dark Skitarii, Battle Servitors, Darkstalkers. So, you know, Basilisks, Defilers, Forge Fiends, Hydras, Mauler Fiends, Wyrns. So there's a lot of that. So any of the demon engines, and we'll talk about demon engines in just a minute. But they basically just took existing rules out of other books and put them in here, which you could definitely do. I mean, they could put that together really, really easy. There's only a few things that I even cared about, but like, you know, like a Heretic Prime, which would be your Dark Mechanicus, you know, captain or whatever, champion. Kind of like I kind of look at that as kind of like your warpsmith for Iron Warriors, right? That's what I did with my Iron Warriors. Warpsmith is he's actually a Mechanicus model. There's a old Mechanicus model, and I just converted him because the old Warpsmith model. Basically, he was just like a tech marine. He didn't have anything exciting. So I took a Mechanicus model. Before Mechanicus was an army, they had models. And so I took that and I converted it. So that's cool. Battle Servitors. And then it kind of talks about the different detachments that they can put in. And, you know, that kind of stuff. So, anyways, that's an interesting read. But there's a few things that I wanted to talk about versus just like taking Mechanicus and, you know, painting some chaos shit on it and calling it Dark Mechanicus. The fundamental difference between the Imperial Mechanicus and the Dark Mechanicus is philosophy. The idea is, when Horus was because the Mechanicus turned against the God Emperor, right? Because he wasn't following through with his promises. He promised them a bunch of shit as long as they supported his crusade, and then they didn't get anything, and so that kind of pissed them off, and that's why they turned with Horus. And I don't remember the book, and we're rereading them, so we'll get there eventually. But in the Horus Heresy, Horus comes along and says, "Hey, I'll give you all this tech," which comes back to the question of the tech, right? That these cultures that they're absorbing, right? But I don't remember any indication of like where the invisible tech from this world that was in Horus Rising comes from, or some of these others. Because the Emperor has a strict edict against developing new technology and preventing new technology, because they don't want things like abominable intelligence, AI, which comes back to what's his name? I keep wanting to call him like IG-88. Isn't that the assassin droid from Star Wars? The Terminator here. UR-025, this guy, right? He's sentient, so they need to put a bullet in his CPU and recycle his ass, because his that almost killed humanity, right? And that's a problem. So UR-025, which he would be a perfect addition to the Dark Mechanicus, right? He would fit into the Dark Mechanicus, or something of that ilk would fit. The spindle droids, the spindle drones, that are also in that packet. They're supposed to be agnostic, if I remember correctly, but they would be another fantastic addition to the Dark Mechanicus, because you couldn't have them in the normal Mechanicus. You can't have AI. You can't have anything that's not slaved to a human, brain, or has a machine spirit in it. So that would be a great Dark Mechanicus thing, because the Dark Mechanicus we're basically told they can continue, because their goal is to learn everything in the universe, and that includes everything that's bad. And so that's where they get that like biological melding of the demon weapons, right? So I think that's something that's really worth exploring, and they wouldn't need to make models for it. The few additions that I would like to see in that Codex, however, the first one is the Demoncubila. The Demoncubila, so hopefully you can read that. But essentially, the Demoncubila is in a book called Black Sun. I got it here. Dead Sky Black Sun. It's one of the Ultramarine books. So the Ultramarine books and the Iron Warriors books go together, right? Remember, like Iron Warriors. So the in this book, there's the warlord Hansu, and Hansu is one of the Imperial or Iron Warriors champions under Petrabu. And actually, so there's a really good Iron Warriors book where they assault an Imperial Fist's stronghold, which actually ends up holding gene seed for the Imperial Fists, which is kind of weird because the Imperial Fists are dead. There's not really any Imperial Fists, right? They're all sons of Dorn. They're not the actual Imperial Fists anymore because they all got killed. But anyway, so there's this Imperial Fist fortress. The Iron Warriors assault this because they're siege masters, right? That's what they do, is the siege. They assault it. It's a wicked cool book. And then they find Gene Seed at the end of that book. And then and that's when Hansu kind of becomes the leader of this band of Iron Warriors, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time since I read it. But Dead Sky, Black Sun, which is another old book. It's Ultramarines book. Fantastic. It was written by Graham McNeil. Graham McNeil. Which I don't know if he writes for... was it Storm of Iron, maybe? Yeah, anyway, so the Ultramarine books that Graham McNeil writes and the Iron Warriors books that Graham McNeil writes occupy the same space. And I'm trying not to give too much away on these books because there's a lot of really cool shit that happens. But I want to kind of give you an understanding of why I think the Demoncubila would be a fun and interesting model. Or at least a kit bash. Which once I finish all these other armies, maybe I'll do a Dark Mechanicus army, just for giggles. But I got about 10 years worth of models I need to do. 3 armies right now, not counting the Age of Sigmar skeletons that I have about 150 of. That I haven't even touched because I don't play Age of Sigmar. I was going to turn them into Poxwalkers. Everything is a Poxwalker. Anyways, when in doubt, turn that shit into a Poxwalker. So the Demoncubila are basically, and I don't know if I actually showed the picture of this transition thing. I tell you, I'm still learning. I'm not as smooth as I'd like to be. So let's see here. Yeah, Black Library, Dead Sky, Black Sun. It's about an Ultramarine. It's badass. He takes the fight to the Iron Warriors on their fucking homeworld, right? So it's a pretty good book. But anyways, in there, Hansu is using basically female Space Marines, okay, but not the good way that people want female Space Marines. Basically, he's using them as an incubator to hotbox new Space Marines, new Iron Warriors, because that's one of the big problems for the heretics, right? And most of the other, like the Rubric Marines and the Plague Marines, they don't really worry about it because they just kind of come back. You know, I'm sure the Plague Marines like grow out of sludge or something, and then the Rubric Marines can't die, no matter how much they want to or wish they could. Even if they're kind of an automaton, so they may not even give a fuck. Anyways, so he's growing Space Marines inside them, right? Inside these like female Space Marines. And then they like come out, and if they're pure enough, then he turns them into Chaos Warriors. And he'll use anybody's gene seed. See, that's the thing too, is like the Iron Warriors, like I think even Hansu isn't Iron Warriors gene seed. And they make fun of him for that. So the Iron Warriors don't give a shit. They will just take gene seed from whoever because they got to continue their line because they're not, they don't have the same gifts from the other Dark Gods. Which I was reading the most recent Death Guard thing, and it talks about Petrabo and Mortarion going head to head, and the Death Guard beating the Iron Fist, which is some fucking bullshit. Anyways, yeah, because who could beat Petrabo, right? I mean, he's big fucking siege engine. Mortarion's pretty cool. Anyways, I think the Demoncubila would be cool as a unit because then you could do a reverse summoning into your Dark Mechanicus. So instead of summoning in a demon into your Space Marine army, you could summon in Space Marines into your demon army or your Dark Mechanicus army. See what I mean? I think that would be nifty. I think, just kind of a fun mechanic. Or you could make them like a plague tree. Because they're not very mobile. They're basically just, they sit in like an amniotic pit and just have Space Marines come out of them. It's probably, and if they survive, they get lucky enough to do it again. Right? So it's pretty messed up. And then the other thing is we have demon engines. Now this is important because there's actually a ton of demon engines, and a lot of people don't really realize how many demon engines there are. And I'm not going to get into all of them, right? Just because, you get into, there's a shit ton of them, and some of them are like Chaos Undivided, like the Defilers or Decimators, right? Which basically a Decimator is just basically like a Dreadnought. And you got your Defilers, which are your crab dudes, right? And you got Soul Grinder, right? Which is basically, it's just basically a Defiler. Forge Fiends, Mauler Fiends, right? You've seen those. You guys know those are pretty common, and they have modern models. Helldrakes, Death Wheels, which I haven't seen a Death Wheel in forever. Is that a Age of Sigmar thing? I've seen it, I think, in like if memory serves, it seems familiar. I haven't read up enough to see what the deal is. But here's a model. I mean, there's a picture of a model of one. And it has guns on it, so I would assume it's 40K. I honestly can't say that I remember that. Wirewolves are kind of cool. Which I don't think there's a model for Wirewolves. But when I was clicking through here, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. That's kind of nifty. That'd be a cool, it's basically like a Chaos Hound. But it's got, metal. And then you got your Khorne, your mechanized Death Dealer. Check out this model. Yeah. Some of these older models, I love them a lot. But, and that's kind of basically like a bug. But these are all demon engines. So these are things that Dark Mechanicus makes. So you could easily convert different kinds of stuff into whatever, demon engine you wanted to give to your Dark Mechanicus. And, like right now, especially within Death Guard, we have a lot of demon engines. In fact, almost everything is a demon engine in the Death Guard. If it's a vehicle, you have your Blight Drones, Fetid Blight Drones, Plague Burst Crawlers, the Blight Haulers. You can do like Defilers and Hulks and stuff like that. So those are almost all the vehicles are demon engines. Some of the more interesting demon engines that I wanted to point out, and these is, as I was clicking through these, is like the Slaaneshi Hellstrider, which is basically just like a automated drone kind of thing, like a walking drone. A Slaanesh Subjugator. They got to give some love to Slaanesh at some point. I saw a model recently, looked like an Anteater. If you guys just saw that, it was pretty decent. This is a Fire Lord of Tzeentch. It's kind of like a Helldrake. But I don't know how big it is. It's a super heavy assault aircraft. So, this is a Doomwing, which is a craft. So, I don't know. Here's one that I thought was kind of funny. The Silver Tower of Tzeentch. Yeah. Yep. I wonder if it's like Dracula's Tower in the Netflix Dracula, where you can just like teleport stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff that you could do from a Dark Mechanicus standpoint. And it would be very, very easy for Games Workshop. And I understand books and balancing and shit takes some time. But as far as investment goes, you don't even have to come up with new models. Just put out the same models. And if you really want to sell some other stuff, you put out like a Chaos Conversion Kit. which, you know, I wouldn't mind just a kit with, you know, chaos bits that I could put in my bits box, you know, and that kind of stuff. But that was kind of my thing. And then, like I said, with the Blackstone Fortress, you have things like the spindle drones and UR something Terminator drone. And then UR 025. Like I would put that into the Dark Mechanicus army, just because, you know, it's abominable. Man, I'm having trouble with words today. Intelligence, AI, right? So, you know, another thing that we kind of talk about is like this Dark Adeptist. Puts out a pretty interesting, posits an interesting theory. Which, if you haven't read this book and you're looking forward to, this is one of the Grey Knight books. This would be a spoiler alert. Okay. No one's really watching this shit, so just, you know, pause me for a second. Essentially, an STC, standard template construct, becomes a demon. Right? So it essentially becomes, so like, it's kind of interesting. So like the Grey Knight can't fight the STC because he doesn't have the ability to fight it. Like, it doesn't have, his faith doesn't affect the entity that doesn't have faith, right? It's an STC. At some point, the STC determines that it's a demon. Now they can fight. So it's kind of like the consciousness of the STC converted it into a demon. And then the Grey Knight could banish it and do all that shit to it. So I think that's an interesting idea. You know, the demon lords for the Dark Mechanicus could be STCs, could be a lot of different, you know, kinds of things. And be a relevant fighting force. There was an argument, I don't remember what it was on, where they were talking about how you couldn't do a Dark Mechanicus army because they're always, you know, the spin-off Dark armies are never as good as the light armies. They never get as much love. But I think that's a dumb fucking reason not to have an army, honestly. Yeah. I mean, no one fucking plays squats. But that's enough. That's next week. We're going to be talking about squats. And why I think squats should have their own fucking codex. Because. And we'll actually be looking at the codex. I like the squat codex online. And we'll be talking about that next week. But there's no reason not to have a decent. Not to have a decent codex. Right? That's just dumb. Okay. Moving right along. Now, something what I want to do is I'm going to start highlighting or featuring people in our community. Because they are doing their own thing, and self-promotion isn't really something everybody does. And so somebody needs to be promoting these people because they're fucking awesome. And so each week what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be featuring an artist, a painter, somebody. I'm not asking their permission because I probably should, but, you know, eventually I'd like to turn it into an interview where I actually talk to those people. I'm just not at that point yet because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But I really wanted to tell you about this artist because I'm really super excited about this artist. And I'm really fucking, I just got a commission art from him. And it's amazing. It's fantastic. I can't even tell you how happy I am with the artwork that this guy puts out. And super duper humble, super friendly, and really just a solid dude. And I'm all about him. So this week, my first artist spotlight is going to be on a bro called Ari. Ari is Auri. Ari is let's switch over and transition. Ari's Twitter tag is kind of a pain in the ass, so I'll kind of read it off to you. It's AURI 019272202. It's a pain in the ass. Anyways, let's look at some of this guy's art, so you can kind of see how fucking ridiculous this guy is and how awesome he is. So one of the things he does do is he kind of gender bends some of the characters in Warhammer 40k, right? This is just a cultist, but when you get into... Oh, sorry. There's... Warning, there's boobs. I forgot that he does some of that stuff. But his artwork is simply impeccable. I mean, look at that. It's just amazing, amazing artwork. You know, I'd love to see a comic book come out of this guy. Now, this piece of art here is the one he just did for me, right? And basically, I'll tell you why he did this for me, and just kind of explain it a little bit. I have a 6-year-old, right? And we were kind of talking about orcs and how orcs work. He really likes orcs. He's currently running a Blood Ravens army, because that's what he was originally into, was Blood Ravens. And so I'm in the process of building him this freaking Blood Ravens army that he wanted. And when we talk, when I put my first blog post is gonna be about how to get your kids into Warhammer and not doing the shit that I did, which was buying my kid a huge this you know, because I bought the, you know, No Fear, and then I bought the Dark Imperium, and I bought the other ones because I thought, oh well, I'll be you know, Death Guard, and he can be Primaris. And we looked at all the different chapters, and he wanted Blood Ravens, and then now he wants an Orc army. So you know, that's just how it is. Anyways, so we were talking about orcs, and we were talking about how they function, and he asked if he could have orcs in his Blood Ravens army, which I told him no, because they're Xenos filth, and the Blood Ravens would kill them as soon as they could. And then he pointed out, well, what if the orcs don't believe that the Blood Ravens will kill them? And so I know it's a loose interpretation, but the kid's kind of got a point, right? If they can pick up a piece of slag metal and think it's a, you know, plasma gun, and it freaking shoots plasma, what's the difference between them just believing that they're part of the Imperium, that Imperials like them, and that they are an accepted part of the Blood Ravens? I didn't have a good answer. So that's kind of become his thing. Like, he's really into... He wants a Grotz. He wants Gretchen. And he wants to put them into his Blood Ravens army, which I'll convert some Gretchen for him, so he can have his Gretchen Blood Ravens, because he plays with me. And if anybody says anything, I'll just talk shit to them, because he's fucking six. But I thought it was a pretty hilarious idea. Well, I've been kind of waiting to see if somebody, you know, could do a piece of artwork for me, because I'm going to put it up in his room, because we're all going to have a great laugh when he's older and he realizes that, you know, Gretchen are Xenos and they need to be shot and burned. But anyways, nonetheless, Ari put this together for me, and it's got a you know, 3 Gretchen in it. There's one kind of in the back. He's a Terminator, which, you know, that's all good. And actually, that's not the finished product. Let me scoot down a little bit. I mean, that's Jagati Khan, or Khan. Jagati Khan. Man, words, man. Words are killing me. Ultramarine Mega Man. Heresy, right? Obviously, Angron. Horus. Lupercal. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. There's the finished So there's the finished picture. And he does just fantastic work. And it's totally affordable. And it's something that if you have an idea or you want something in this kind of style, this hard-hitting, really clean, really, really high-definition style, I definitely recommend getting with him. Like I said, it was totally affordable. He's totally great to work with. All I did is basically told him the story that I just told you, and this is what I got. Right? He's got freaking Gretchen popped a hole in the Space Marine helmet so his ears could stick out, which is badass. And they basically looted Blood Raven armor, which is hilarious because, Blood Ravens are fucking thieves. And so they kind of go hand in hand with Gretchen, right? They kind of meld pretty well. But he does some really good stuff. This is something he did for Berserker. Berserker's another guy on Twitter. And just beautiful, man, right? I mean, that's just... Wait. I'm sorry. Ah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's just beautiful, man. It's just he's got a couple Primaris in here, and Berserker's just ripping them to pieces. I mean, it's amazing work. Amazing work. And if you want to see his work, as far as I know, it's only on Twitter. And I recommend you give him a follow. He's got 460 follows. 460 follows. I mean, 460. Which is ridiculously low. Stupid low. I'm amazed. And I got in with him pretty early. He sent me something a few months back. He had just jumped on and started this account, and he sent me something which was heretical, and I thought it was pretty awesome. And we got to talking, and then eventually started taking commissions. And so we need to fill up this dude's commissions box. Like, his art needs to be everywhere. And I mean, he is fantastic. Go through his art, check it out. If you're into Warhammer 40K, or comic books, or anime, or any of that shit, this dude is for real. It is fantastic. And when he was doing my commission, he basically sent me the pencil drawing. And let me show you something. This is something that people miss. Look right there. That's a fucking piece of paper. Homeboy did that on a fucking piece of paper. Could you imagine if he fucked that up? How many hours would be gone? Right? That's not digital art, friends. That's honest to goodness real shit right there. I mean, that dude is legit. He is a fantastic artist. So, definitely, like, follow, retweet, and buy his commissions because he is just fucking amazing and super nice guy. Super nice guy. Okay, so that follows that section. Last section is something near and dear to my heart, and we're going to be doing a lot of. We might hit this actually a couple times a month. I'm a huge proponent of understanding where fantasy and sci-fi has been so that you can understand some of those little quips and some of the more intricate details of stuff that's happening in the world, right? Or in your fantasy, right? In your sci-fi, you get into guys like Isaac Asimov, H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard. Some of these dudes, they're foundational to the fantasy sci-fi environment, and when you read them and understand them, you start seeing more and more. Like Warhammer's not a standalone IP, right? Warhammer wasn't something that some person came along and decided to make. Warhammer is an amalgamation of sci-fi and fantasy. It's got orcs from J.R. Tolkien. It's got Space Marines from Robert Heinlein. It's got, even the Tyranids are from Heinlein. And then you kind of go back and forth, and people will be like, oh, well, Blizzard stole from Warhammer because of the fucking Zerg or whatever. And it's actually not the case. Actually, Blizzard stole from Warhammer, but Warhammer stole from other people. And the thing about it is that to me, it's transformative. They did a great job in making it a good IP, but also at the same time, understanding the IP, you get a much deeper understanding when you understand the foundation of where those ideas came from, or what's going on. So, with that being said, I gained permission. I reached out to some folks, and I gained permission to highlight this particular person that I'm going to be talking about. And I'll try and get permission to do other stuff, because some of them gets a little shady about if you can show it on your channel because of copyright and stuff like that. So I actually have permission. So if anybody's complains about me showing this stuff on my channel, I asked first, and I can show emails to whatever person wants to say that I'm violating copyrights. They could suck it. And it means a lot that I was granted this permission. It means a lot to me because I really deeply care for this art that I'm about to show you. It's something that's been following me since I was a kid, and it means a lot to me. And I think it's something that the newer generations really need to get into and look at. The wording's weird. The stories are different. But even then, that's some of the best books I ever read. For example, are the Conan books. Are they mildly offensive? Sure. Yeah. Yeah, they were written in a very long time ago when people were dicks, and he didn't think he was being a dick. It's just that's how they were. But to throw out the literature, the story, the amazing stories, all because someone was a dick. H.P. Lovecraft was a dick. Fantastic stories though, and a fantastic world. I really feel like, that's, you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Recognize they're a dick. And H.P. Lovecraft would probably say he was a dick too, because he was antisocial and he had a lot of issues and stuff like that. And, today he'd be on medication and he wouldn't come up with anything because the medication would dull his mind. And instead he had demons and he put them into paper. So anyways, he's a tragic story. We'll talk about H.P. Lovecraft one of these days. But the first person that I wanted to really highlight is somebody that I care about very deeply, and that is Frank Frazetta. And let me transition over here. Frank Frazetta is the stereotypical cover art guy for fantasy and sci-fi for almost 50 years, if not longer than 50 years. He was the standalone dude for almost every one of these major classic literatures. And so I really love him. And what's happened now is his granddaughters, I believe, run a site called the Frazetta Girls. And that's this website that I'm showing you right now. It's frazettagirls.com. They're also on Twitter. You'll see I follow and will retweet their stuff because I love his stuff. And the first one of the most striking to me is what is the Death Dealer, right? The Death Dealer. This is a story about a guy who basically puts on a helmet that is the personification of the death god, and the helmet won't come off. But he proceeds to lay the ever-loving smackdown on everybody all the time. And it's just it's kind of like Conan, but it's the Death Dealer. And it's just a badass print. And you can buy all their prints and stuff. And I'll probably end up getting one of these to put behind me just because the Death Dealer is, look at the detail that he put into his work. It's amazing. And when you get back into the Frazetta Girls things, here's another Death Dealer. This is the other iconic Death Dealer. What does that look like to you? Do you guys remember Doom? There's cover art of Doom that is essentially the Death Dealer art. They just kind of changed it around a little bit. So like I say, if you play a game like Doom and you see cover art like that, it helps you to kind of see the kinds of poses and artwork. And what they'll do is kind of a kickback to that artist. They'll cover that that person's art with their own. They'll do their own thing. But these are just beautiful paintings, and then they have shirts and all that fun stuff. Let's see, the canvas prints. Look at that. So talk about classic artwork, right? Talk about that classic feel. And there's just some, this is a badass print. This is Alien Crucifixion, right? And he's got 4 arms. He's kind of like Goro from Mortal Kombat, right? And he's being crucified. But yeah, so he did a lot of like Conan covers. He did Witch covers and different prints and stuff like that. And I don't remember how they all. Yeah, so this is a Conan print. Actually, this is the better Conan print. This is the one I really think is awesome. Go. There you go. Look at that. Badass. And I actually tried to get an artist at one point to commission some work to do kind of like a Frank Frazetta kind of thing for one of my other projects that I had tried out, and it really sucked. And it was what he ended up doing actually is he took a Frank Frazetta image and he did some digital modification to it and then tried to sell it back to me because he's a dick. Which, whatever, fucking people tell me they can do the art and then they can't. That's just lame. Day of Wrath, Dark Wolf. This is a cool print. Look at that. So anyways, you want to see some badass classical art, Frank Frazetta. It's Frazetta. Girls at, and they're on Twitter and they're on online, and sometimes they'll run specials. And so when they run a special, I'll put it out there, just because they're pretty awesome. And we're gonna be talking. I think next week I have it slated out for Robert Howard, who's the author of Conan. Robert Howard. Yeah, I think that's what it is. My brain today, I tell you, Nurgle has blessed me much. I need to sleep, but we'll be talking about Robert Howard next week. And kind of going into the Conan stories because they're amazing. They're fantastic. And they're free. Most of them are free. And I'll show you how to get that. So that is my show, which we went about an hour and a half, which is a pretty long show. I would suspect my shows will be about an hour and a half. Just because there's a lot of things I want to cover, a lot of things I want to talk about. And when I run out of things to talk about, we'll do other things. Hopefully we can start getting some viewers. Hopefully I can start building a viewer base and getting folks to spend some time with me. We will, it's kind of hard for me to do. Like I thought about like switching, doing like taking the audio from this and turning it into a podcast and stuff. But it's really kind of hard because what I like doing is it's showing you stuff. Like I don't just like talking about it and you having to take on faith that I know what the hell I'm talking about. Like I would like to show you what I'm talking about. So I kind of don't have the right format for a podcast. So getting viewers that way is going to be hard. And building a YouTube channel is hard. A few years back, I built a YouTube channel, got to about, I don't remember how many followers, maybe 500-600 followers. And then it wasn't sustainable. So I got out of it, and I'm glad I did. But and it wasn't this kind of stuff. It was bullshit. But anyways, the point being is it's a nice fresh start for me. And I'd like to, I know it takes forever to build a viewer base. So I'm not really worried about that. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing until I start building that viewer base, because I honestly think that once people start seeing what I have to offer and kind of, there really isn't a variety show like this, let alone one that you can jump on and chat with that person. Chapter Master Varric, I think he's one of the better ones as far as live streaming goes. He does a lot of gameplay and stuff like that. Maybe we'll do some gameplay. I don't know. That's not really that's not really my thing. Plus, I do this when I play video games. I don't know why. My wife thinks it's hilarious. I love me some video games. I really do. But yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of play with it. If, as I start getting viewers, I'll kind of let them kind of dictate where we go and what we do. Like I said, I'll hopefully have a pilot for my game show coming soon, and my blog will get going. And I'm really just trying to create a news source, a commentary source that's live. And I know there's some good ones out there. There really is. There's some pretty awesome ones, and there's some awesome ones growing and becoming, more and more popular. And I think I have something to offer, and so we're gonna just stay the course. So hopefully, I can get someone to watch me. As far as the one viewer that I do have, which I'm sure is a moderator, sorry. Hopefully, you weren't too bored to tears. If you're interested, keep watching. We'll get you into Warhammer. You can start getting little plastic dudes and painting them and playing with us. And I'll educate you on the lore. You're probably a different moderator every time. You should try to request to moderate my stream regularly, and I will teach you about Warhammer, and then you can join us, and you can be waste your money on little plastic dudes. Anyways. But yeah, so if you do end up watching this all the way through, thank you, and I appreciate you, and hopefully we can do a lot more. Have a great week.